Puppy, puppy. Mwah. Ah. Hello and welcome again, everybody. It is yours truly, Jake Flame. And it is that time again. Story time with Jake Flame. Alright, so I believe where we last left off. Yes, we were finishing chapter 3 of James Patterson's Daniel X Lights Out. If y'all don't remember what happened in the first couple of chapters, I have episodes 1 and 2 of Storytime with Jake Flake on my channel. So if you want to, you can go on and check those out. And while you're at it, if you're not subscribed to the channel, go ahead and click subscribe. And then make sure to hit that bell icon so that you're notified of all my videos. As usual, let's begin the story. At the beginning, middle, or end of the video, make sure to hit that like button. And if you want to add some pointers or anything, comment down below. Now, let's see. If I remember correctly... Yes. We had ended our video last time with the ending of chapter 3, where our friend Daniel was going through some crazy stuff happening. And according to this, next chapter's gonna be just as crazy. So, sit tight. My strange day kept getting stranger. My next little surprise? An unexpected visit from my family. My mom, my dad, and my little sister Brenda. Quick recap on that, just so we're all up to speed here. I don't have a family anymore. I am, basically, the galaxy's #1 orphan. As you already know, the Prayer murdered my mother and father when I was just a kid. He also masterminded the near genocide of my home planet, Alpernock. Is it any wonder the repugnant insect freak is the top target on my list? Anyway, in the past I've been able to summon my mother and father back into temporary, artificial existence, just like I do with my 4 friends. In fact, my mom and dad were even easier to conjure up than Joe, Willie, Donna, and Emma. And sometimes, like whenever I needed them most, my mom and dad just appeared. But during my battle with the demon Abaddon, #2 on the list, I cast the ashes of my father and mother's immortal souls into the 4 winds. They can't come back to help me anymore, no matter how much help I might need. As for my little sister Brenda, she's definitely not real. How could she be? I mean, she wasn't even born. She was never born. When #1 killed my mom, she was pregnant with the baby that would have become my little sister, though. That's right. The Prayer snuffed out my mother's life as well as the little life growing inside her. Brenda, aka Pork Chop, never actually existed, except in my imagination. "Oh, Daniel," said the woman who looked like my mother. She was tall, blonde, and pretty. She was also weeping. "You came back to us." "We were so worried," said the man who looked remarkably like my father. "We thought we'd lost you. Our house hasn't been a home without you, son." "Actually, I thought our home was pretty awesome while you were gone," said the girl who was supposedly my sister. "I had the upstairs bathroom all to myself." Pork chop, said my mother, raising her eyebrows disapprovingly. Sorry, said my annoying little sis. I'm just joking, Daniel. I really, really missed you too. Not. I couldn't take it anymore. Who are you guys? I asked. My father grinned. That's an odd question, Daniel. We're your family. Don't you recognize us? My mother's voice was quavering. He's still a little groggy, explained Nurse O'Hara, who had come into the room to adjust my IV bags. It's to be expected. He's been unconscious for over a year. Who knows what sorts of wild dreams he might have had while he was under. She tapped the side of her head. Yeah, Nurse O'Hara thought I was nuts. Guess I should have felt insulted, but I didn't. Mostly because I was kind of starting to think the same thing. My father sighed. We've spoken to your doctors, Daniel. Did you really tell them you were from another planet? My little sister said with a laugh. I guess that would explain why you dress like such a dork. Pork chop. Sorry, Dad. Okay, I said. You guys tell me. Who am I? You're our one and only son, Daniel, said my mother, taking my hand in hers. You are Daniel Manishill. You go to high school. You have 4 amazing friends. One of them's your girlfriend, Dana, said Brenda with a singing voice. Well, she was your girlfriend before you were stupid enough to ride your motorcycle in the rain. Now I think Dana might be dating Willie. What? I said. Well, you can't expect her to wait forever. No. What are you people talking about? I don't go to high school. Let's take it easy, said my father soothingly. You just came out of a coma, after all. You had a terrible accident, son. Really? I stammered, not knowing who or what to believe. What happened? You were riding your motorbike home from school. A rainstorm hit. The surface of the road became slippery. You lost control and spun out, Daniel. Your bike skidded across the highway and slammed into a tractor-trailer truck. You almost died. Actually, said Nurse O'Hara, he did die. Okay, yeah, I am reading that one right. She does in fact say he did die. The plot thickens. Chapter 5. Nurse O'Hara kept fiddling with the tubes and wires attached to the equipment beeping all around my bed. You flatlined, Daniel, she said, tapping the monitor, tracking the peaks and valleys of my heartbeat. You had no pulse for 2 or 3 minutes. That means you should have had serious brain damage, blurted my baby sister. So now you'll probably dress even worse. Brenda, said my mom. Honestly, what? It explains why Daniel thinks he's some kind of superhero from outer space. There was no oxygen in his brain for... All right, everybody, said Nurse O'Hara. Visiting hours are over. Young Mr. Manishill needs his rest. For a second or two, I wondered who she was talking about. Then I remembered. Everybody in the room kept insisting that I was Daniel Manishill, ordinary high school kid. If it was true, then Daniel X was the biggest figment of my imagination, or anyone else's, ever. What about all the incredible stuff I've done during my time on Earth? All the aliens I've battled, the human lives I've saved. I could remember enough non-stop action to fill 4, maybe 5 books. Breaking the fourth wall there, ain't you? Was all that just a complex dream created by my poor oxygen-deprived brain in the 2 or 3 minutes I was dead? My family, the Manashills, promised to come back tomorrow and left. I sunk my head back into the foamy hospital pillow and closed my eyes. I didn't know who I was anymore. Daniel X, the alien hunter? Or Daniel Manashill, the high school kid who dresses funny and stupidly drove his motorcycle on a rain-slick highway? Somehow, I drifted off into a fitful sleep. I think they were still pumping sedatives into my blood system. Daniel? I opened my eyes. A bearded man in a tweed jacket was sitting in a chair he had pulled up beside my bed. His fingertips formed a tent underneath his nose. Hello, Daniel. I am Dr. Loser, one of this hospital's many licensed psychiatrists. I nodded. I felt like I was teetering back into the brink of insanity. Maybe a shrink was what I needed. The psychiatrist stroked his goatee. You are most likely feeling quite confused. You have experienced a terrible traumatic shock. He was right. Waking up in this hospital bed had probably been the most traumatic experience of my life. Almost worse than seeing my parents slain by a giant purple bug with dreadlocks. Still creepy when I think about it in my head. If, any of that ever really happened. I swallowed hard. Am I crazy, Doc? Because I kind of feel like I'm going nuts here. He grinned. No, of course not, Daniel. You have simply spent your comatose time constructing a complex coping mechanism to ease the emotional pain of your poor judgment. I must have frowned or looked confused. Allow me to explain, said the psychiatrist. Nurse O'Hara has told me about your outburst with the doctors who came to visit you several days ago. That was several days ago? She also told me the details of the fantasies you have discussed with your friends and family. Fantasies? Yes, these stories about being an alien, how you were sent to Earth to protect all mankind. I'm the alien hunter. The psychiatrist's grin grew wider. Yes, so I have heard. Imagination and hallucination can be wonderful tools when one is unconscious. So I made all this stuff up, just to kill time while I was in a coma? That is one way to put it, I suppose, but let us look at some of the specific details of your story more closely. For instance, this business with the... He looked at a clipboard on his lap. Ah, yes, the 6.5-foot tall praying mantis with the dreadlocks. They call him the Prayer. They? It's his alias. On the list of alien outlaws on terra firma. The shrink nodded. Again, Mr. Manashill, I applaud your imaginative mind on the intricate layers of detail you have constructed to support your grand delusion. You say this creature from another planet, the Prayer, as you call him, killed your parents at your farmhouse in, Kansas? Right. Back when I was 3 years old. Ah, yes. You were a mere toddler, a weakling. There was absolutely nothing you could do to stop the hurt and pain inflicted upon your poor mother and father by this horrible monster. Don't you see what this dream is really all about, Daniel? I shook my head. Your own compensatory feelings of guilt and remorse. Really? I don't get it. What do I have to feel so guilty about? Disobeying your parents, of course. Riding your motorcycle in the rain after they had repeatedly warned you not to do so. Your accident was near death inflicted. Tremendous hurt and pain on them, Daniel. Therefore, in your fantasy, to absolve your own guilt, you created this alien beast. You didn't hurt your parents. The prayer did. I didn't know what to say. Daniel? Yes? Do you remember the helmet you were wearing when you had your motorcycle accident? No, sir. The psychiatrist glanced down at his notes. According to the police report, it was a Nitro Mantis touring helmet. I swallowed. Is that where I got the idea to make my monster a praying mantis? Perhaps. What do you think, Daniel? I didn't answer. I was too devastated, too confused. Was my life as I remembered it nothing more than a grand illusion I'd concocted because I felt bad about breaking my parents' bike riding rules? How can that be? But it had all seemed so real, so unbelievably, painfully real. Chapter 6. Later that night, as I lay in bed, staring up at the ceiling tiles, wondering what kind of toppings Daniel Manischel liked on his Papa John's pizza or Cold Stone Sundae, it dawned on me. Something was seriously wrong, and it had nothing to do with the pizza or ice cream. It was this place. I kept replaying Dr. Lozer's psychobabble in my mind. Back when I was Daniel X, instead of some ordinary high school schmo named Daniel Manischel, I had the equivalent of a 4-channel XLR balanced plus 48V phantom powered digital recorder scrolling in my head at all times. I could, as they say when you call it TechServe line, monitor my memories for quality assuring purposes. I couldn't do it when I first woke up, but now that ability had returned, because I was still Daniel X. Hey, how else could I have a Dolby Digital memory track of every word ever spoken to me? I quickly scrubbed backward and replayed a chunk of the shrink's opening remarks. Nurse O'Hara has told me about your outburst with the doctors who came to visit you several days ago. She also told me the details of the fantasies you had discussed with your friends and family. This business with the... the 6.5 foot tall praying mantis with the dreadlocks. You say this creature from another planet, the Prayer, as you called him, killed your parents at your farmhouse in, let me see, Kansas? I stopped the playback. I didn't need to hear any more. Busted, Dr. Lozer, I whispered to myself. I definitely couldn't shout it out loud. My hospital room was undoubtedly bugged. Because here's the deal. I never mentioned anything about my family massacre in Kansas to anybody in this so-called healthcare facility. How can I be so sure? Easy. I was so emotionally scarred on that horrible day, I rarely, if ever, talk about it anymore. I certainly don't give up juicy details like the thing's dreadlocks to total strangers wearing white lab coats. Yeah, I know. I should probably open up more. Let it all out. If I keep my emotions bottled up inside too long, I'll eventually explode in some kind of socially unacceptable manner. Fine. Okay, point taken. But I could work on that little personality quirk with a real psychiatrist once I busted out of this prison. Because that's what this phony hospital had to be. The Alien Outlaws prisoner of war camp. And I had a pretty good idea who my warden was. Number 1. Chapter 7. I decided it was time to die again. Or at least to make it look that way. Encouraged by the return of my mental recording mechanism, I was pretty confident that more of my internal powers would eventually come back. I might be able to rearrange the matter inside my own body because it was in such close proximity to my brain. I wouldn't have to strain myself too much. I just needed to do enough organ manipulation to pull up a quick and convincing heart rate reduction. On planets across the cosmos, the bigger the creature, the slower its resting heart rate. Great whales, the largest animals on Earth, operate on about 7 beats per minute. Oh, wow, I did not know that. Let's see. The average heart rate for a 16-year-old Earthling boy? Between 143 and 173 beats per minute. This is probably why those guys can't sit still for very long. Anyway, on Sraim, a planet I visited once, I met this huge under-ice dweller called a Phrygian. It's the size of Rhode Island and lives in the darkness 6 miles beneath the glaciers that coat Sraim's polar ice caps. Its heart rate? 2 beats every hour. Like clockwork. And the Phrygian taught me how to do it. I took a deep breath and concentrated hard. In my mind, I became a Phrygian at the bottom of the Sraim Sea. I could still see and hear everything in the room, including the long, piercing screech of the EKG machine as my pulse dropped off the charts. Code Blue! I heard a robotic voice call out from a ceiling speaker. Code Blue! The 2 burly orderlies bustled into the room. Nurse O'Hara stormed in right behind them. What's going on? She demanded. He's flatlining, grunted one of the orderlies when he spoke. A long, rubbery lizard tongue spooled out of his mouth. As I suspected. My orderlies were actually undercover aliens in cheap human suits. Nurse O'Hara grabbed my wrist as the EKG machine continued screaming its annoying beep. No pulse, she reported. Well, that wasn't entirely true. My heart had already done its Phrygian baboom boom for the hour. It'd be back to another drum solo in about 60 minutes. The prayer must have his prey. We must resuscitate the boy. Note to self. It's pretty impossible to say all the S sounds in the word resuscitate when you're wearing a rubbery mask to make you look like a sweet Irish nurse. My alien caregivers were so busy, frantically hauling me out of the hospital bed, sliding me into a gurney, that they didn't seem to notice that their lip, nose, and eye holes were sliding around to reveal blotchy patches of their true snot yellow and puke green skin. The alien hunter must not die, cried Nurse O'Hara as the orderlies rolled me up the hall. Yes, mistress, grunted the 2 orderlies. Slobbery gobs of gelatinous fish gut goop dribbled out of their nose holes. Take him to the resuscitation chamber. Yes, mistress. In my self-induced state of suspended animation, I could still see and hear everything they rolled me out the door. The hospital corridors looked like the backstage of a movie set. The walls of my room had been made out of painted canvas stretched across wooden frames. Without moving my eyeballs, dead guys don't do eye rolls. I activated my zoom vision and peered over my toes to the double door we were about to bang through. When the foot of my gurney hit the exit bar, I smelled something deliciously fresh. Fresh air. The resuscitation chamber must be in some other building. For the next couple of minutes, I'd be outside the prison walls. Chapter 8. Further proof that your nurse is actually an alien in disguise. She whips out a Fear Flash Stun Thumper, a wireless electroshock projectile cannon, which is standard riot gear on the planet Kolongu. This happened maybe 10 seconds after I kickstarted my heart back into the average teenage Alpar Nokian range, leaped off the rolling stretcher, and raced with my hospital gown flapping open in the back toward the nearest tree line. Nurse O'Hara fired a stun blast that missed me by a mile. I figured the eye holes on her human mask had slipped sideways and obstructed her view. I dug down deep and jacked up my speed. I was nowhere near my personal best, a sneaker-sizzling pace of 348 miles per hour. But even in my bare feet, I was doing a 1-minute mile. I raced for the dark edge of the forest, ringing the extraterrestrials' makeshift POW camp. "Stop him!" shouted the deep, rumbling voice of the creature that had been pretending to be my angel of mercy. "Incapacitate him immediately!" An interesting choice of words, I thought. Incapacitate. To deprive of ability, qualification, or strength. Make incapable or unfit. Disable. She or it wanted to disable me, not destroy me. An army of guards swarmed out of the prison buildings. They were loaded down with jangling weapons, the kind you can't buy on Earth, even in Texas. Lithium battery-powered electroshock charges were exploding in white-hot bursts all around me. A couple of Nurse O'Hara's hench goons were firing old-fashioned earth tasers at me, too. I could hear their wire-tethered electrodes whizzing through the air and ripping through the foliage around me. Some of the barbed darts thunked into tree trunks. One needle-nosed projectile nicked the side of my knee, delivering a quick jolt of what the taser folks call neuromuscular incapacitation. The sharp shock of 50,000 volts delivering maybe half an amp of raw electrical power momentarily interrupted my brain's ability to control my muscles. My knees buckled. Momentarily. Because I've studied enough physics to know it was the amperes and not the megavolts I had to worry about. Amps are what can blow circuit breakers or short-circuit your brain. My nervous system quickly rerouted the excess amperage, sending the electrical energy rippling through my body circuitry to recharge what, for simplicity's sake, I'll call my batteries. In other words, the taser hit was helping me regain power, the way jumper cables help a car battery bolt back to life, or the way Red Bull gives you wings. "Thanks for the boost, boys," I said over my shoulder as I ran even faster through the thick trees. A Fear Flash stun charge detonated maybe 10 feet to my left. I quickly jerked right, where another stun blast flared. I dodged back to the left. That's when I realized Nurse O'Hara and her riot squad goons were trying to prod me toward wherever it was they wanted me to go. They were herding me the way cowboys herd cattle. "Do not kill the boy!" the nurse creature screamed again. His death has already been claimed by our Lord and Master. More explosions rocked the woods. I instinctively reacted to each one, changing my course to avoid the blowback, which suddenly stopped. There were no more electrical eruptions, no more flash boom explosions. All I could hear was my own rapid breathing. Was the cattle drive over? Was it cornered in some kind of invisible corral? I soon had my answer. Release the hounds! Screeched the all too familiar voice of my mortal enemy. Let the hunt begin! The prayer. Number 1. Nurse O'Hara's so-called Lord and Master had come to claim his kill. And that is where we're going to end. I would read chapter 9, but I feel like that one should be for a later episode. I know, kind of a mood killer, because we were just getting into the hype of it all, but hey, what's a good video without a nice cliffhanger for y'all to talk about, to discuss what's going to happen next? I, myself, am pretty excited for what's going to happen next. Even though I don't know what will happen. Which is what makes me excited for it. So, if you guys want to, you can give me your own comments about what you thought of the couple of chapters we just went through. Hit like and subscribe. Hit that bell notification so you get uploads of more videos like these. Or if there's a particular kind of video that you guys might want me to make, you can comment that down there too. I'm always open to some new ideas for this channel. Gotta keep the public happy, you know? Now, thank you for watching and enjoying Storytime with Jake Flame. And for all of you who are watching this at night, I bid you sweet dreams. This is Jake Flame signing off.